Hey, what's up, guys? MiRai here. And today, we got a little in between episode going on here. I do have a list of what I'd like to talk about, so hopefully this won't be too ridiculously long. This is going to be a semi long video. I'm going to go over my UI just a little bit and my ISBoxer setup just a little bit. There's no how-tos, there's no tutorials or anything like that. This is just someone's going to ask, and it's going to be easier for me to just point them back to this video rather than have to continually repeat things and all of that. So maybe I'll break it down. Maybe there will be a table of contents, maybe in the description of the video. So where to start off? I guess we'll just start off with the UI. The UI is not groundbreaking by any means. It looks a little fancy, maybe. It might look completely stupid to some people. Everyone has their own taste. This is what I like. But, I mean, there's nothing groundbreaking about it. The mini-map is still in the upper right-hand corner. That's right where Blizzard puts it. The debuffs and buffs are just to the left of the mini-map. That's right where Blizzard keeps them. Speaking of buffs and debuffs, I finally have a buff button. You guys can stop talking smack about that. I do have to turn on my broadcasting, though. I need to set up a maps key for that. Anyway, quest tracker, right below the minimap, right where Blizzard, it's the same Blizzard quest tracker. My chat frames are broken up. Let me just turn these off. My chat frames are broken up. I've got trade skills and experience and honor and looting and miscellaneous things like that all over here on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side, I've got pretty much just chat. And it's nice to keep it separate, because right here, if this was all combined, this guy would be doing his trade skill stuff. I'd be blocking out all my chat. As if there's anything important going on in trade chat at the moment. There isn't, but if there was, I would not be able to see it. I mean, if there was a funny Chuck Norris joke or something, I would miss it because there's trade skill stuff going on. So, right, the UI. SL data text at the bottom. Most of it is disabled for the most part, just a few things, even unnecessary. It's unnecessary for me to really see the add-on usage. It's not really a big deal. I don't know. I'm a technical person, so maybe I like to monitor that stuff. Not a big deal. Unit frames, I'm using OUF unit frames with an OUF layout. You can use Pitbull. You can use Shadow unit frames. You can use Xpro. I don't care. The thing with OUF is that there aren't any, I don't want to say there aren't any, but most of the layouts require you to open up the Lua files and configure them in that fashion. So you're going to need to not be scared to open up the Lua file and maybe look at some code to change things around, especially if you want to make any type of big changes. You're definitely going to have to know Lua. I don't know Lua past the ability to tie my shoes in Lua. But I'm able to pretty much just trudge through the long lines of code and figure things out. Break it, and if it change a value, if it breaks something, change it back. And if it's not what you're looking for, move on to the next value. That's pretty much, use the Braille method. Just feel it out. Let's see. Anything fantastically special? No. Okay, next on the list. If you watched the last video, the pilot episode, not the last video, that's talking about the pilot, episode 0, where I do Utgard Keep and Utgard Pinnacle. You may have noticed in that video, and you may notice moving forward, I don't have damage enabled on my screen. There's no damage. There's no damage at all. That's it. No, I guess to elaborate on that, I think it clutters the screen. I don't feel that it's necessary for me to know if my spell hits for 20k or not. I don't really feel that that's necessary. It draws your attention. When those big crits pop up in your face, it just draws your attention like, oh yeah, I'm doing good. And next thing you know, you're dead because you were standing in fire and looking at big numbers fly all over the screen. So I just disable them. I used to not disable them. I used to... Here's an old screenshot, if I can expand this here. Here's a screenshot from Wrath. Funny that I'm doing Wrath heroics, and maybe it's not that funny. I used to break it up like this, you know, break it apart, because the default, well, here, I actually have a video on that. Here's what default Quest scrolling combat text looks like. Look at the middle of the screen. We're not worried about anything else. Just look at the middle of the screen. Look at all these numbers. Look at all these numbers flying by. Icons, numbers, resistances, dodge, block, parry, notifications. This spell's ready, that spell's ready. There's just so much shit on the screen. There's no way that you are processing all of this. I mean, be honest with yourself. Are you really processing all of that information? Look how fast that's moving. Does anything that happens on that screen, all those numbers, alter the outcome, alter your decision in the fight? I don't think so. I don't think so. That's my opinion, though. That is my opinion. That's why I disabled damage. It's a distraction to me. I used to split it up like this and be fancy, but still, I mean, it looks good, and you might think it looks stupid, but most of the time, scrolling combat text looks good in still screenshots. And when it's really in motion, it's just a distraction to me. It's a distraction to me. Maybe you like it. That's your taste. There's nothing in this video that I'm going to tell you that this is the way it should be done. This is the only way you can do this. And if you do it the other way, well, you're dumb. Okay? That's not what this video is about. This video is about just why maybe I do something the way that I do something and the way I feel about it. So, user interface wise. One thing you will notice is that my chat hasn't changed much. I still use Pratt down here. This is obviously from Wrath, so 4 years ago or something. I don't know. It's got to be at least that old. But that's what's cool about customizing your user interface. I mean, you find things that work over the years and you just stick with them and you just build upon that. You just build upon that and you just build upon that. It's the same thing with the multiboxing setup. That's what I'll get to in a few. But that's how good user interfaces are made. It's very difficult to just load up like a prepackaged UI and be like, this is exactly what I want and I'm going to change nothing about it. Very rarely does that happen. Even with the vanilla UI that Blizzard offers, you know, you may still be using that UI, but you've altered something in it because you wanted to tweak it in one way or another. And so if you are from, I will say this, if you're from dual-boxing.com, that is Supernova. He adopted me back in Wrath, and he said, tank for me, bro. And I said, for show. That's pretty much what the conversation was. So I tanked for him through the entire expansion. Cool story, bro, right? Yeah. So let's close that down. So fact of the matter is, I guess what I'm getting at next is that I'm not going to upload this. I'm not going to share this UI with anyone. What are you guys doing? It's not rest time. So I'm not going to share this UI with anybody. You know, you can try to piece it together yourself, but this UI is kind of held together with duct tape. There's a lot of custom Lua work, just little tweaks and little changes here or there that I've done. And if I upload this and people start using it, then everyone's got questions, and I don't want to be a selfish prick, but you know, I don't have time to. I didn't build this. This isn't really my UI. It's just a bunch of add-ons thrown together, and there's no way in hell that I'm just going to package this up and upload this and be like, hey, check out my cool UI, guys. It's not my UI. It's just a bunch of add-ons put together, ragtag, thrown together, and I don't want to share it because it's not a whole package. And, you know, people start asking questions, like I was saying, and they're going to want to know, like, some people like party cast bars. I don't have party cast bars enabled. I don't know how to enable them in this layout. Is it possible? It's entirely possible, but this layout was built without party cast bars in mind, so they're not in there. And someone's going to say, well, how do I do that? And I'm going to say, I have no idea, and I don't want to help you figure it out. It might be mean, that might not be mean, whatever. Oh, not to stray too far away from damage. DPS meters, I don't run them. I don't even run them solo. I think they're inaccurate, and maybe if I was like a raid leader or something and I need to see an estimate of who was really screwing around during a certain fight, I would run a damage meter. But to me, they're really not that important. Right now I'm doing Wrath Heroics. I don't really care how much damage I'm doing. If the enemy is dying and I'm staying alive, I'm apparently doing enough damage. Same thing with healing. If I'm doing healing and everyone's alive, apparently the healing is sufficient. So we just wing it like that. That's what it is. Very carefree. Let me get a swig of water here. Very good. Water is so good for you. You should ditch the soda, and drink some water. Your body will love you for that. Next on the list, Jamba. Someone's going to ask about Jamba. I know they will. I've been asked before in the past about Jamba. I don't use Jamba. It's not that I don't like it. You know, shout out to Jafula for making Jamba. A lot of multiboxers depend on Jamba in their daily multiboxing lives. I do not. Not anymore, at least. I used to use Jamba a long time ago when I first started multiboxing, and it made things more convenient. It does, but I don't use all of its features, and the features that I do use, I can really just do it with a few more clicks in the UI. You know, I don't know, you know. Nothing wrong with that. I don't tell people not to use it. When new multiboxers come in and they're like, hey, how do I automatically accept quests? I'm like, hey, man, you can either turn on repeater or you can go get Jamba. But then they start asking me about Jamba, and I have to stop them on the spot and say, hold on there, little buddy. I don't use it, so I don't know the answers to your questions. I'm sorry. And that's all I have to say about that. Next. Here's a shortcoming with my UI. I tend to rest my mouse cursor. I'm covering this because Alge called me out on this before, and someone else might mention this in the future. So my mouse cursor rests on the right-hand side. That's just where I've become accustomed to putting it. When I move my character around, when I'm doing my stuff like this. But then when it's time to heal, I have to move my cursor all the way across to hit the heal button. And, well, that could be, you know, split-second life and death situation. Latency comes into play. All of a sudden, if I would have had my mouse cursor closer to the frames, I may have lived through a fight. So, you know, the typical reply would be, well, just move the frames over to the right-hand side. And I tried that. Holy Christ, did I try that. But, man, was that so foreign. It felt so awkward to have. No game I've ever played has the party frames on the right-hand side. Every game, by default, that I've ever played, someone's going to say, well, this game has it on the right. Every game that I've played, by default, the default UI always has the party frames on the left-hand side under the player frame itself. That is just, it's like if you would ask me to start writing, if I was to learn Arabic and I would have to write from right to left or something, it would feel so awkward. You know, I'm just used to the left to right type of setup. So I'm just going to suck it up and live with it. And they're just not ready for a show. Stop going AFK. I'm just going to live with it. I just accept the fact that I'm probably half a screen away from my healing. Sometimes when shit gets real and it's hitting the fan, you might see me try to keep my cursor on the left-hand side here, close to my frame, because I know that it's going to be necessary for me to start healing and bubbling quickly. Okay. As for healing, trust me, this list comes in handy. This is not the first time I've done this take. The other ones were very long. This one's going to be long anyway, but the other ones were very long. So this list comes in extremely handy. All right, so we'll just move into the healing thing. If you watch the pilot and you watch videos moving forward, you're not going to see these white borders around my unit frames anymore. I enabled them for a little while, kind of like training wheels, so that I knew where I was clicking. But now that I've become accustomed to this for the most part, I'm going to be disabling the borders. I only have them enabled now so that I can show you people what's going on, because they're transparent otherwise. What I've done is I built the add-on Clique, CLIQUE, into ISBoxer, and then I can use that. I can tie in mouse clicks into frames with mouse over macros and stuff like that. It's just easier to manage. It's much easier to manage in ISBoxer than it is having to manage an add-on across multiple accounts, multiple healers, and all that. This way, I have complete control over everything, and I don't have to worry about losing things in an add-on setup. It's always going to be there for me. And I can use this across multiple games as well. EverQuest, Lord of the Rings, Final Fantasy XIV, Rift. This click healing will continue to work in those games as well, assuming I set it up for that. Obviously, I can't use the same World of Warcraft mouse over macros in those games, so I have to adapt the system. But it's there. The foundation is there for me to then just assign things to it. Anyway, we're getting off track here. At the moment, I've only got some very basic things set up. I mentioned this before. I'm slacking on setting up things for my priest. I have no AoE healing set up. That's a big mistake. But what happens is, say I'll right-click the tank in that frame, and she'll heal the tank. I right-click the shaman. She will heal the shaman. If I left-click the mage, she will bubble the mage. So left-click, right-click, I'll do something now. I'm toying with mouse over mouse wheel macros. It's very interesting to get those working. Very interesting, but to say the least, if I do mouse wheel down, she's still going to do the same flash heal because we're just testing out the system at the moment. The second click bar is a more general click bar, and it's going to be used for everyone else in my party. Right now, it's only set up for the paladin, and right now he can cast Flash of Light on his mouse over. Let me clear that so this makes more sense. Here, he'll heal the shaman just like that with his flash heal. And I can freedom. Oops. 2 freedoms with a talent. And I can also use my Word of Glory, which is Eternal Flame talented into that. So I have no holy power to show that off at the moment, but you just have to take my word for it. And that's advanced. That's extremely advanced click healing. This is extremely advanced setup going on here. This isn't something that you're going to learn on day 1 of multiboxing and picking up ISBoxer or even any other program for the most part. Timeout. So to just touch on that, that's some of the things you see in here are extremely advanced setup. I use the Pro system here. I guess did I cover everything in the UI? Pretty much, I think. The action bars are dominoes. I don't know if I said that. They're dominoes, and they show up if I hold down a modifier key or if I target something that's hostile. Otherwise, they're out of my way. Into ISBoxer we go. Just a quick, this is going to be a ridiculously quick overview because the Pro system is very, very advanced in the sense of the way that it manages everything. Where to start? Let me close down my characters, and I guess we'll just look at menus. Well, here's if you watched the pilot episode, there was different numbers. There were different numbers in the upper left-hand corner. They were white and they turned red when I clicked them, and it's for me to disable and enable my key maps. And I just changed the numbers recently. It's not a big deal. It's a menu that I click. I just built it off of the default menu that the wizard creates for you. I just changed the images, and each image is assigned. I've got the folder here. You just create some images, and you assign the images to that menu. It used to be a click bar. Now it's a menu. Menus are better than click bars in this sense. Not for everything, though. So that's it. I'm not going to talk about the spec stuff. That's a super secret G14 classified project that we'll reveal at a later date and time. That's all I have to say about that. I'm not going to go over macros. You want to see an awesome macro I've got? Let's see. These are my macros. Druid cat sequence. Look at that badass macro I've got. Don't come to me for macros. My macros are the most boring things in the world. I'm doing Wrath Heroics. Okay, if you need macros, you need to check out dual-boxing.com. There's a mega thread of macros for every expansion. We do that, and we'll continue into the next expansion. So go there for macros. Don't come to me for macros. I'm terrible at writing macros. That's my awesome druid macro right there. Gets me the mad deeps. So just showing you that I'm not skilled at that. Anyone who's a beginner at this, at ISBoxer or multiboxing in general, this is going to make no sense to you. So I apologize in advance if that's the thing. Maybe you want to see what ISBoxer is capable of. Then continue listening. And for those of you who do know what the pro system is, this may look familiar to you. You've got your class and spec specific key maps set up, and that's where you build your rotations. That's all I could say about that without trying to keep this general and not very confusing. Okay, so control is the always on key map, and there's nothing special in here. This is everything that the wizard makes. I have, these are the menu toggles that I've got in the upper left-hand corner. And all they do is just load and unload each menu as I click them. So general is non-combat. If you're wondering why I named this control in general, that's because that's what they used to be called for World of Warcraft players back before ISBoxer 41 came out. So this profile was created back before ISBoxer 41 came out, so I didn't move my setup over. It's just the same stuff. General, I've got people wonder how they get out of fire, out of bad things with like their ranged characters. Well, here's a strafe key, strafe left, strafe right, and all that does is it should just move my ranged, I believe. Whoops. Oh, I don't all right, well, this isn't gonna work. There it is. Okay, whoops. All it does is move. I have it bound to my G700 tilt wheel, but I don't have the G700 software installed at the moment or turned on, so my tilt wheel doesn't do anything. But this is what the strafe keys do. They just strafe my ranged characters out of fire that they might be standing in. That's all that is. Character change macro is something I've got that fires off when I change windows, when I change screens, and all it does is it toggles click to move in certain windows. It sets certain views via macros in World of Warcraft. It forces off my broadcasting, and it forces on my control key map in case for some reason it got turned off. Formations. This is all basic stuff. This is all stuff that comes with the wizard. Some people are anti-wizard. They don't want to use the ISBoxer wizard, but it creates a lot of this stuff for you that you can then look at. And if you're curious, you're like, how do I set this up? You know, this will help you set it up. Dig through this stuff. Spec rotation, there's nothing in here at the moment. Again, that's the super secret project we will be revealing at a later date. Stay tuned for that one. So combat, pro system combat is just where you assign your hotkeys for your DPS rotations. Healing is kind of the same thing. Anyone who's looked at the advanced click healing that Alge has written out. Oh, let me clarify. Man, I am very thirsty today. I apologize. So in the last episode, in the pilot episode, I said that Alge he had invented the click healing that you see right here with these click bars. And he didn't invent it. He improved upon it to work well with the pro system, and that's what we've got here today. And like I said, it just replicates the add-on click. So in the add-on click, you would be able to assign left clicks, right clicks, mouse wheels to do different macros and different actions and whatever you wanted it to do. And that's exactly what we've built here. 001 is this click bar. 002 is this click bar. They're backwards just because that's the way that they were put in. But I can assign any type of macro for any character currently in my character set or will soon be in my character set. There's not much more to go over at that point. These are my special mouse wheel mouse over macros, which require their own special key map. Main, again, is for the one on the right. General is for the one on the left. They need to be separate. The virtual key maps here are, again, if you're familiar with the Pro system, they have to be, they're a counterpart of combat and healing, virtual combat, virtual healing. And then they're tied in virtually to characters. On a per character basis, they're tied in virtually. Such confusion going. People are scratching their heads. They're like, what are you talking about? Pro system players will know what I'm talking about. If you think this is cool, then adopt the Pro system, because the Pro system is where it's at. It's confusing at first. It's complicated. But once you learn it, it all just makes perfect sense. So that's all I have to say about that. Vehicle combat is just a placeholder at the moment. It's something I've got to create. I need to design it. When I went into the 5-man, TOC 5-man, I don't know if it's Crusader or Champion. It's Trial of the something. There's the Raid, and then there's the 5-man, and one of them is Crusader, and one of them is Champion. I always get them mixed up. So I went into that TOC 5-man, and whoever's done that before, you know that you start out on horses. So you're on horseback, it's mounted combat, but it's what's considered vehicle combat. Same thing if you go into Ulduar, you're in tanks in the beginning, that's vehicle combat. If you go into Oculus with the dragons, that's a fun instance, that is vehicle combat. I learned quickly that I'm going to need a separate key map in order to take care of vehicle combat. So I'm going to make one. It's a terrible experience if you don't have anything set up. It's very difficult to down those encounters if you don't have anything special set up for that. So rather than try to build an Oculus setup, rather than try to build a setup for TOC and then Ulduar and then anything in the future that requires vehicle combat, I'm just going to try to store everything in one vehicle combat key map, and we'll see how that plays out. Emotive is just going to be like a role play / emote mode. All the time, players come up to me, and whether they want to be dicks or whether they want to have fun, you know, and they expect a Multiboxer to put on a show for them, I'm never ready. I'm never ready to put on a show. And, you know, it takes too long to target them and then disable my key maps and turn on broadcasting and type / emotes over and over and over again. And that's a pain in the ass. So what I plan to do is I plan to just build a special key map that's just going to have emotes tied to my keyboard keys. And I'm going to be able to put on a show that way. Special stuff for the solo players. And that is... Ow, I just banged. I think that's pretty much it. Very long video. But it was necessary. Hopefully you guys get something out of looking at this. Maybe a way to make everything look a little bit neater. That's the way I like to put the zeros, the 1, 3, 4, and the 10s here. I don't know. They're just random numbers to help alphabetize, numerically alphabetize things where I need to look, or where I need to find them. Because if they weren't, combat would be up here in the C's, virtual combat would be way down here in the V's, and it would be a pain in the ass to try to find all that stuff. Once you have all these key maps laid out, it becomes quite a long list. As you can see, it gets even longer. I don't even have every class and every spec in here. Key maps, window layouts. No need to look at window layouts. You can see it on my screen. Repeated profile. Nope. Click bars. We'll just show this real fast. It's a single button. We're looking at this one right here. It's a single button. It does nothing special except it receives clicks. Left click, right click, shift left click, shift right click, alt left click, alt right click, and I can continue on down the line. And a special mouse over macro, that special mouse over key map that fires off. Pro system, man. It's good stuff. And, you know, I said in a prior video, in the response video I did for What Does ISBoxer Do For You, I said that ISBoxer was my multiboxing management software, and I'm really not trying to create some trendy buzzword bullshit, but this is what it is. It just this lets me manage everything so much nicer than having to deal with the in-game stuff. I mean, if ISBoxer wasn't around, it could all be done in-game, but it would just take a ridiculous amount of setup, twice as much amount of setup than it does now. And sure, it's difficult to make it happen in ISBoxer, but once it's set up, man, it's set up. Just back up your profile somewhere on like a Dropbox or put it in the cloud. Put your profile in the cloud and save it for later in case you accidentally delete it or your hard drive crashes. So that's all the advice I have to say about that. One final thing here is something I think is kind of cool, kind of useful, I guess. Obviously, the wizard creates the config.wtf file by default. It virtualizes that. Now, I'm also virtualizing my add-ons folder so that I can have a separate add-ons folder for when I'm playing solo and when I'm multiboxing. It comes in handy because I play with different add-ons, kind of, sort of, but they're really in like a different scale because I multibox with different resolutions and I'm always playing around with that. So rather than have to screw up my main layout and all of that stuff, I just separate them. I just virtualize the folder. Same thing with the account folder. The account folder holds your saved variables for your add-ons. It also holds the addons.txt file, which is if you were on the character selection screen and you click on the add-ons button, you have a list of add-ons there, and with checkboxes that you can enable and disable. That is saved in your addons.txt file. And it's really nice to virtualize that so that if you play solo, you've got different stuff enabled, and if you play multiboxing, you've got different stuff enabled. And that's how I started out, but then I wanted saved variables in there as well, so I just virtualized the entire folder. Some of this stuff may be over some people's heads, but hopefully someone's like, oh man, this is so cool. I want to be just like MiRai. Well, I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else for me to show that is of importance at the moment. This was a long video, as always. But it is what it is, and hopefully someone got something out of this. Maybe did, maybe didn't. Sorry if I wasted your time, but thank you for watching. Thank you for the support so far, and thank you for future support moving forward. The next episode, we will get back into doing heroics. So, thank you again. MiRai out.